Doom the Dark Ages might be one of the most exciting games I've heard about in a long while, and following the Xbox Dev Direct we had a lot of information to process, and because of the sheer amount of stuff we got shown, there's probably a lot of stuff that you didn't notice. Due to this, I spent the better part of an hour combing through this 11-minute video to find every single little detail that I think that myself and many others have missed. To prevent this video being about 10,000 years long, I narrowed this down to about 10 things. And to prevent me from dragging this intro any longer, I think we should get into it. Number 1. During the montage that was shown at the beginning of the showcase, there's this shot of this new demon feasting on the remains of a sentinel soldier. At first I thought this was a brand new demon, but upon further inspection I realised this is an imp, or at least a form of imp. You can tell from looking at its face and the overall structure of its body. I originally wanted to call this a feral imp just because of the way it looks, but the more I thought about it, this could be a stone imp. Not only because of its grey, solid looking skin, but also because of the way it stands. In a later shot you can see them lined up with the rest of the enemies, and yeah, they stand the exact same as the stone imps in Doom Eternal. So keep my fingers crossed, hopefully the full auto is back. Number 2. During this fight with the Mancubus, we see this green glowing box in the background. The current purpose of this box is completely unknown to us. However, I believe this is some sort of upgrade, or a crate containing gold. Now you may be wondering, why gold? Well, if you paid attention to the upgrade screen later in the showcase, you'll notice that there's a currency, which is a bunch of gold bars. This is most likely a more streamlined currency after the complaints about Doom Eternal, and I think it makes complete sense for it to be hidden in a box like this. You can even see the same box later in the showcase. Number 3. The pinky showcased here is a little bit different to the ones that we've seen thus far. This one is covered in armor, leading me to believe that we're going to see a lot more armored variations of normal enemies. We've already seen a armored Hell Knight variation, which granted does have different attacks, but it still gives me reasonable suspicion to think there's going to be more armored enemies. So far, the armor only really looks like a little bit more health, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Number 4. Outside of this Hell Fortress, we can see this weird floating blue skull. The intended use of this thing is unknown. Okay, editing Beansprout here. Upon further inspection, looking at this closer, this does appear to be one of the upgrade stations that we can see later in the showcase, which indicates to me that maybe these upgrade stations will be a bit more clearly marked. It's kind of difficult to make out, but the blue flame does make it look like what we saw later. Anyway, back to the actual video. Number 5. In the same shot as the previous point, we can see this bit of blue energy flying up into the air, suspiciously placed right next to a ledge that looks too tall for us to jump up. And now that can only mean one thing: jump pads are back. I had a big fear that jump pads were not going to make the return in this game due to its heavier nature, but thankfully that fear is squashed. No matter how grounded this game's going to be, jump pads will always be cool. And plus, it might make for some really cool kills using the shield's like ground pound ability thing. Number 6. We've had suspicions that the weak point system's going to make its way back into Doom. This started with the multiple times that we've seen the Slayer blow an enemy's arms off, but now we actually have full proof. During this fight with an Arachnotron, if you pay close attention, you might notice that its turret is lit up red, the same way that enemies' weak points would be lit up red in Doom Eternal. I personally am really happy to see the weak point system returning. I know they're trying to differentiate this game from Doom Eternal, but certain things like that just need to stay. I also think the dash should have stayed, but can't have everything. Number 7. So with Doom the Dark Ages, we've seen a few more classic looking enemies, such as the Imp, who returns sporting his 90s design. But did you know there's also another enemy sporting its 90s design? It's pretty easy to miss because of how fast this part goes by, but if you stop the video about here, then you'll see that this lost soul is rocking its full 90s attire. Every time that we see 90s designs return in modern Doom games, I love it. The Pain Elemental in Doom Eternal and the Mancubus were two things that I absolutely loved, and seeing stuff like that again brings a massive grin to my face. Number 8. Hugo mentioned a lot about the environments, and I'm assuming we'll be seeing a lot of new ones, but I believe we'll be seeing some familiar ones too. For instance, much of the footage that's shown in the Hell areas looks like Nekravol to me. How do I know this? Well, first of all, the overall architecture of the place looks like Nekravol. And second of all, there's this giant pentagram in the sky, which looks way too familiar. This can be seen here while the Slayer's battling a group of Mancubi, and then it can be seen even clearer as we go past this giant citadel with tortured titans hanging off of its walls. Which, if the architecture and colours of the place alone won't tell you where this is, I think the tortured titans is a pretty good sign that this is Nekravol. You never know, I might just be huffing copium here, but I really hope I'm right, because Nekravol is my favourite level in Doom Eternal. Number 9. In the early parts of the presentation, we see Hugo walk past this wall of concept art, and this actually shows us a couple of things that we've not seen properly yet. Firstly, there's this enemy that I believe to be a Hell Knight variation, but I'm not completely sure. And along with that, on the same wall, we also see a full body image of the lizard looking thing from the game's cover art. I genuinely cannot wait to see this enemy in action. It looks huge and I want to kill it so bad. And now last but definitely not least, we have number 10. Now after the reveal showcase, me and Horde Mode Gaming had a bit of a chat, so shout out for him for this. And it turns out that on the collector's edition figure that's shown at the end of the showcase, there's an equipment launcher on his shoulder. This equipment launcher hasn't been mentioned or seen in any part of the game, which means two things. Either A, grenades are in the game and they just haven't shown us them yet, or B, which is more likely, is that they removed the equipment launcher pretty early in development, but failed to give an updated version to the manufacturer of the figure. Again, this is one that we really don't know for sure, but I'm gonna go with the latter. But if you enjoyed this video, there's more similar ones on the screen right now. If you want to see more of this content in future, then I highly recommend subscribing and hitting the bell. Along with that, if you'd like to support the channel and fund videos in future, whilst also gaining access to some exclusive members perks, then I highly recommend clicking the join button. But thank you for watching, and have a nice day.